When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. Mark Ledlow here with the Fearless Mindset Podcast. And today we have a good friend of mine who moved over to the East Coast. He was in the West Coast with the rest of us, and he got promoted, or not promoted, but promoted into less taxes, I guess, the best way to put it. And Bill and I have been friends for several years now. We broke bread in the Bay Area, and Bill is now went from Army intel to the U.S. Marshals to he actually was one of the oldest recruits and graduates of Gavin DeBecker Academy, and he could put that as a trophy on the back of his next to his clock there. I was like, when he told me the story about he had to go through Gavin DeBecker Academy, I'm like, what'd you do? And so I was blown away by that humility he had to want to get in the industry, and being where he's from, being humble enough to go, hey, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. Now he's a director of operations or security for Oracle now, of all things. So just can imagine his mindset and his background doing what he did, and now where he's at. He's paid his dues, obviously, veteran, law enforcement, federal agent, and then he was Gavin DeBecker, then he's exploded from there on out. So congratulations, and thanks, Bill, for scratching some time to come on to the show before you go all over the world again.
Well, pleasure. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while. It's just nice to be on and have the conversation with you. I always enjoy our telephone conversations that we have, and it's always good to see you and talk with you.
Yeah, Bill gives me a lot of great advice on what kind of going on in the industry, what he sees, and so I figured that the audience would love to hear this talk, because there's so many agents that went through COVID, they went through the pandemic. Now it's over. They're going, oh, shoot, what do I do? And so Bill's in the thick of it all with one of the highest profile principals in the world. And I know the audience wants to know what he knows. So can you share, Bill, what do you see out there as far as what are the weaknesses in the EP? What are the sloppy habits you've seen? And where does the industry need to improve on to be better for the principals out there?
Well, I mean, right now, I think what we've seen is, especially COVID, just into COVID, a lot of the big corporations have sucked up a lot of the smaller and medium-sized companies and their clientele, right? So the strength of organizations like those, the medium-sized companies especially, was their service and their agility to turn on a dime and to provide services for their clients. And now that they're into these bigger organizations, it's not as agile. The amount to do business, the overhead is twice what it used to be. I know when I was told at the end of COVID that what I was paying for an agent was, a lot higher than what it was. And then you start talking to the people on the ground, find out they're not making any more money than they were, during COVID or before COVID. The money's going to where they're going, and you're seeing some migration of people from various company to company, or the people that you used to use that had high quality, skill sets and service. They're not available anymore because they've gone to another permanent job just so they don't have to suck up the lower cost with the difference where they don't have an impact anymore, where they're working.
So do you see it's harder to get the quality agents that you used to get before COVID? It's hard to get by those folks because they're in demand?
Yeah, especially in certain regions. Washington, D.C. is terrible. Trying to get people in Washington, D.C. that are really quality. Florida's starting to come up. It's a little hard to get some of the people we want down here. California, a lot of people have exited. especially the armed roles out there because of the way the government is handling things out there. It's really penalizing people to actually work in these industries. So in certain regions, even New York is really busy. New York, New Jersey area is very, it's a very busy thing. And, then the laws are changing about what you can and can't do. As a LEOSA, HR 218, holder myself, you have to really pay attention when you start traveling what the regulations are so you don't violate the law.
So I can see that being problematic. And like you said, there's a big migration of people getting out of the business because it's not worth it to them. Yeah. Insurance costs are going up on small companies in California, and there's it's not even worth it to be in business anymore because the insurance premiums are out pricing what we can charge. So it's like a lot of guys are just going out of business from what I'm hearing.
The larger companies that have sucked up the smaller companies are driving a lot of the costs down for their clients, but that also means that the people that were out there that were making money, that were actually functional and making a profit, they're gone, or they're not able to operate as functionally or get the people they used to. I can think of probably half a dozen people right off the top of my head right now that have left the business just simply because it's not worth it. They're going to go do something else.
Yeah, I've been hearing that too lately, in probably the last year or so after coming out of the pandemic. I mean, the demand's still there, is it? What you see out there, Bill, the demand is still hotter than ever.
It is hotter than ever, and it's getting more and more demand right now because of the number of things that are transpiring. Right, the rise of anti-Semitism right now is really something that's alarming at such a rate. I haven't seen something like this in my lifetime. Both on the left side of the spectrum and the right side of the spectrum politically. That's driving a huge demand in some of the people that I know for concealed carry weapons training, for security at religious places. And then there's just the people out there that are ultra high net worth that are now realizing that they're in somebody else's crosshairs, and now they need protection. But now you're dealing with, how many people are really out there that can provide this function anymore, that or of quality, with the training and the experience to do what needs to be done and protect these people's families.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too. The labor supply is it's a shortage, and there's not enough agents out there to meet that demand. So I'm thinking the demand of the price to pay the agents are going to go up because supply and demand issues, economics.
Yeah, I mean, this last year was a boom year for travel, right? Everybody's been sitting. A lot of people that I know that have ultra high net worth clients or corporate clients, they set record travel last year. My time on the road. A lot of the people that I know right now, they're still on the road because their clients stayed home, and now it's time to get out and go do business or just to go carry on their normal lives.
It's like a mad rush to get back to normal. And hey, we took a loss in business. We got to make up for the loss. Otherwise, we're going to be hurting as a business. Like I think Jamie Dimon said it best during the pandemic. We had everybody working remotely, and those companies got out there. They beat us. They beat us to the punch. And so everybody's got back to work, back to the office.
Whether people like it or not, work from home it might turn into a hybrid situation, but work from home's dead. Even though, in a lot of respects, it's efficient, but in a lot of respects, what our corporation has found out is, if you have people that have specialties that need to collaborate, that needs to be done in person. In a lot of these business deals with these major companies, major government businesses, it's still a face-to-face personal relationship type of thing, and you can't build relationships like that on Zoom. I hate to tell you this, but Zoom's good. It's great for certain things, but when it comes to building relationships with people, and especially when you're selling people millions and billions of dollars worth of sensitive, technology, they want to see your face. They want to have somebody to talk to, and if they have a problem, they want someone to show up.
The trust is built face to face.
Yeah, it's old world. You're seeing old world values come back in a lot of that respect. There's too many people getting burned. You see all this crypto, the crypto stuff that blew up here recently. It was people were, thought they couldn't get burned by this guy, by Friedman, and guess what? They did. It's things like that, and you're seeing people. They want to see who they're dealing with. They want to see what they're getting, and they want a real person that's going to show up and make things work the way it's supposed to.
So you got crypto there, and you have that issue. People, there's big losses, there's risk mitigation with crypto, and now you have artificial AI taking over with robotic machines taking over. That's a whole brand new world. And I'm sure Oracle's involved in that space somehow or another. And everybody's involved in that space. So we have a whole new risk factors there.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. AI is a big thing. Oracle's been in AI for a lot longer than before AI was popular. It's a big footnote. Or I shouldn't say footnote. It's a big piece of our secure cloud. The bigger issue for us, and the bigger issue for anybody out here, technologically, you as an EP operator, you have to start thinking about not only the way you operate and your security, your vulnerabilities, but you have to think about what's going on for your corporation, what's going on for your client, what kinds of things could go wrong that will make a bad press release, for your company, for your corporation. And it starts with you. It starts with your advance. It starts with, understanding the landscape in which you're operating. We've had a couple of cyber attacks.
We had one yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
Facebook is out nationwide.
On our team in traveling in some foreign locations. So it's made us a little bit more aware of what's going on. But, in this business, things are constantly changing. Technology is constantly changing. The ability to do things is constantly changing. When I can sit here on my cellular telephone or a handheld radio and talk to you all the way across the country like we're staying still, it tells you things are changing, at a rapid pace, and it makes you more vulnerable. Smartwatches are great. I like smartwatches. They're helpful. Instead of having to pull my phone out, I can look at my watch and see, who's texting me or if there's a message coming up. But it's also a vulnerability, for, communications wise for people as well, because they also track, all your COVID apps, all your applications for tracking people during COVID were all Bluetooth based. And what the bad guys found out was they could spoof those applications, and they could set up a communication point that would imitate the same Bluetooth node that the government was using to track the COVID cases. And they could use it to track your geolocation, where you're at, who you're with. And COVID the applications that were out, they would gather for a 10-meter radius of who was around you, because I was supposed to, be able to notify people if you were contagious and might have spread it to them, so it would give them notification. Well, the other thing is if someone was snooping on you and your client, they could see who you were meeting with. They could see who you were doing business with.
Holy crap.
At the point doing that, you had to turn off your Bluetooth, and deny the application. And even to the point now where, certain meetings that we go to, we put things in the radio proof bags, right? The silent partner bags, so your cell phone doesn't transmit.
That's some serious James Bond stuff there.
But, those are just the things that, and there's other teams out there, they're more technologically involved than just that. But just the basic rudimentary common sense things. It's like, if it's a sensitive meeting, your client's going to have to leave their phone in the car with you.
Wow, that's wild to think. That's true, though. These phones can be tapped by foreign adversaries, I'm sure, but easily. Like, for example, getting hacked by Facebook yesterday. Everybody's calling me, "Hey, is your Facebook down?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what just happened."
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of that Facebook sites getting zapped or getting taken over right now. But it's one of those things where if you remember with Jeff Bezos, he got a message on his cell phone from a guy that he thought he knew from the Middle East. And it turns out that he allowed an application to be downloaded to his cell phone that allowed people to track not only him, but his location and everything, but his conversations and his text messages.
Wow.
And ultimately, it led to his undoing while he was, dating the anchor from the news station while he was still married to his wife. So, and that's a security vulnerability. You can't save your client from themselves, right? You can educate them and say, hey, don't do that. If you start suddenly, getting messages saying that you need to relog into your email account suddenly, out of the blue, you should know that that's a spoof, transmission that's trying to get you to log on to a network that's going to capture your details and then use it to, countermand your phone.
That's just a great example of why protective intelligence is so critical in the new age of technology. It's not just being a body on a principle. That's why protective intelligence companies offering those service lines are so in need, because some things are so advanced, as that example of the Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Yeah,
that also protective intelligence is something that we're starting to utilize a lot more in our own company. We have a group within our company that does our protective intelligence. And what we're finding is we're having to lean on them a lot more for threat assessments and for doing deep dives into the dark web, into some of these chat areas that have subversive groups. Recently, we've seen people get targeted, by some of these protest groups because of their support for, Israel. And it's one of those things where if you don't pay attention to some of the things, you're going to end up where you're going to be a target of a protest, and you're not going to have sufficient manpower or planning to be able to, to do anything but have to ride out, a bad situation. That doesn't look good for you and your client.
Wow. Yeah, that story that happened overseas somewhere.
Yeah.
They just popped out of nowhere, and you're like, what the heck is this all about? But yeah, they're sophisticated communication now. I mean, our adversaries, they have probably better communication than we know they do. And they want to embarrass the brand reputation. That's their goal, to embarrass the brand.
Yeah. The thing is if they're trying to intimidate, your client, you're trying to intimidate your company into not doing what they think is the right thing to do. I get it. This protest was extremely organized and very well orchestrated. It was very professionally done. So it just tells me, we're now in the crosshairs of somebody else that we need to start planning for, which means our protective intelligence needs to pivot and now start looking in areas that they didn't traditionally look at, right? For threat, for protests, for, traffic that comes up, for certain organizations that are very active. Last time we were in the UK, I think we got caught in, several thousand people in pro-Palestinian march. That was very disruptive, and the police ended up having to break it up because it was very violent at the end. And then, then there's the climate protesters and everything else. So it's like, these are things now that you have to look at and go, okay, what major events are going on while I'm there in this particular area? Is that impactful to my client? Is that impactful to my corporation? Am I one of the people that are on their list, or are the people I'm visiting on their list? Last time I went to the UK, we were going to a business for a meeting, and the banking corporation was a target of an environmental group. They had just arrested a group of them that were doing pre-operational planning, and they were doing reconnaissance of the building and the entry points, and attempted to get into the security access points. So, knowing the fact that you're going someplace that might have a problem tends to make you want to look at, a couple of other, ways of how this is going to happen, right?
Yeah. As you explain what you do, it's like a lot of it's like, say, 50-60% is what advanced work. And maybe the other 50%, maybe 10% is what the principal actually. So most of what you do is advance.
Your advance is the key. If you have a good advance, you're going to have a successful trip. If your advance isn't done properly, then you're going to have a bad trip. Especially when we travel to certain parts of the world, we'll do extreme, extreme planning, including medical evac and extraction, by one of our contractors in the event that the airplane goes down. We need someone to come get us, or there's a medical emergency that's going to require more from where you are locally. And just the sheer fact that, you might need a safe house to put your head down for a while if you're in a place where you have major disturbances and government services break down.
Right. Yeah, that's so much more sophisticated than it used to be. Didn't used to be that sophisticated, but now times have changed. It's not just being, 3 or 4 guys. You're maybe a solo practitioner with that principal, and then you have a couple guys on the protective intelligence side guiding you. It's such a weird industry now. How it's evolved.
I mean, I feel for people that are solo practitioners, especially if they're traveling internationally right now, with the number of not only criminal threats that are out there, organized criminal threats, but the number of incidences that are transpiring just due to civil disobedience, civil breakdowns with, like airlines, baggage handlers going on strike, trains going on strike, hotels going on strike, and then, France, it was like we were in France one time and it was the guy pulls out, using there locally, pulls out a schedule and he says, we can't go this way this time because there's a planned protest that way.
Wow.
And the local knowledge is king, right? It's one of the greatest things that you can get. So, I mean, being able to hire good people where you're going is another big issue, and having vetted, vendors that are good at what they do. So, yeah, I mean, it's no longer, your grandpa's executive protection. It's a new cutting edge. You have to look at a whole variety of things.
Yeah, running my company also, I discovered that. In fact, Stephen Pellin went over to Ontic. And I'm like, we were talking on the phone. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to start offering protective intelligence. And, we're looking for analysts to work for us as contractors. And so we have to, you got to pivot industry if you want to stay relevant. If you want to stay alive in business, you have to pivot.
I mean, in the recent years, you've seen a lot, especially during COVID, you see a lot of guys pivot and they went to training, right? They would start offering training to make them eat, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good guys out there that are offering, very relevant training. And then there's a lot of guys that are there, or companies, I shouldn't say guys. There's a lot of companies that are offering things that are just unrealistic unless you're going to be doing EP and austere environments in Mexico or maybe the Middle East or whatever. And you're going to be contracting with a government entity that is going to allow you to partake in that style of executive protection.
Yeah, that's just a harsh reality that we're in. If you don't pivot, if you think you're going to be, 60 years, you're not going to, I don't want to say any ages, but you're going to expire at some point in this industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Your body's just going to wear out. You can only do so many 14-hour flights one way. It's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, people have to understand this industry is a job. It's not really a career. You're going to expire. And you need to figure out how to pivot and do something else at some point in time.
Yeah.
Some people have better runs at it than others. If you're a contract practitioner and you're dependent on, working in order to put bread on the table, you don't have much choice. If you're working for a corporation, maybe you can transition to another part of, physical security or whatever, and, prolong your lifespan in the business. But when it comes to this business, it's a young man's business. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But it also requires experience. It requires judgment and maturity. And it requires a level of intelligence and understanding, not only people, but, world events and clients, but, the lay of the land. And I hate to say this, but you can't be a 20-something-year-old and do this business very effectively unless you have life experience someplace else.
True. Yeah, are you seeing a change and shift in the family offices to the corporations? The people think it's a cookie cutter industry, the exec protection, and protecting a corporate CEO to protecting a family office, residential security, RST. They're all so different.
Yeah, they're very different. I mean, I had a very short stint with Gavin DeBecker doing a family, ultra high net worth family situation in an RST. Wasn't really my cup of tea. I can say that I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot from the people there. I could say that's one of the things that Gavin does very well is RSPs. They have a very good playbook for that. There are some companies that are very good at setting up the ultra high net worth RST for the family offices. You're coming to the dynamics because with the family office, now you have nannies, you have kids, you have to worry about, you have the house. That's another thing. Plus the wife usually has, their own thing going on. So there's multiple things in those camps. If you look at just the public side, and I'll only leave the public side of Facebook with what goes on there, you can just think of the amount of people that are needed in order to facilitate, their movements because of the way that family dynamic is. Facebook has a huge budget for security for that reason. So, that wasn't my cup of tea. I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. I like working corporate a lot better. I have a lot less to plan for as a result of that. I don't have to worry about the after hours, what's going on at the family household and whether the kid's got to go to the hospital, because he broke his leg playing ball in the backyard or something, right?
Right. So do you think that's going to grow? There's so many different parts of executive protection, and there's so many different spaces. Like you have family office, you have corporate, you have nonprofits. You have site security. It's not, like you said, it's not going away anytime soon. And we have the presidential election coming upon us. We have all the international stuff that's going on with Israel, the Palestine. We have the Middle East going on, and we have Russia, Ukraine going on. It's just a lot of chaos, I guess, just in the environment.
There's a lot of chaos right now, and the chaos breeds, the requirement or the need for this business, not only for physical security, excuse me, but not only for physical security, but for protection. The number of ultra high net worth people that travel every day without any kind of protection detail or anything other than maybe a family planner or an office manager kind of thing. It's mind numbing, the number of people that have that much money that are running around. They don't have any protection at all, but they also have on their side, nobody knows who they are and nobody knows anything about them. So they're not targeted.
Right. True.
What we found during COVID was there was a lot of targeting of people because of the accessibility of people over the internet, because people were isolated. They're able to perpetrate scams about, miracle cures and research and things and get into people's wheelhouses inside their organizations or inside their family, promising, snake oil of some sort. Right. And then it caused a lot of problems with, okay, where are these people and who are they and what are they doing? So then you had cyber tracking, you had to have cyber investigators come through and go find out where these people were. And then you had to have the protective intelligence people come in. They start giving you assessments about what's going on. Am I vulnerable really, or is this just a scam? And that takes time. It takes effort. It takes people that, that are in-house that can service your client, right? Or from outside that can service your client. And then the other key part of it, right? Everybody wants confidentiality. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants the fact that there's some sort of deniability in case there's some sort of adverse action that has to be taken. So this person can't blame them and target them even more, right?